Guardians of the Galaxy is a fantastic game. This interactive take on the adventures of 5 spacebound misfits was surprisingly able to meet the very high expectations set by the fantastic film that made the Guardians a household name, while still having plenty of new ideas and personality of its own. However, it did have one major controversy at the time of release. In a game called Guardians of the Galaxy, you only play as one of the Guardians. Is it the immature and mentally unstable raccoon with PTSD? Is it the woman with PTSD whose subtitle is Deadliest Woman in the Galaxy? Is it the guy with PTSD who is so muscular he has jiggle physics? Is it the tree who's probably got PTSD? I don't know, there's something going on behind those eyes. Nope. You play as Peter Quill, a regular human who loves 80s music and has PTSD. Fortunately, this was only a fault on paper and it worked beautifully in the final product. It makes sense because Starlord is the leader of the team, so you get to command the Guardians' attacks while zapping away with your little blasters. But that got me thinking, with all these lethal warriors at your disposal, do you really need Starlord? Would it be possible to complete the game without him? Now I know what you're thinking, obviously not, he's the leader, he has to be there to give the commands, and to that I'd say, obviously, we need Starlord. He has to give commands, do environmental puzzles, and push the plot. What I mean is, can the game be beat without his combat input, without him killing anyone? Well, let's find out. Oh, and I just want to say, I'll be spoiling the plot to this game, so if you haven't played it yet, do. Seriously, it's nothing like that Avengers game. The plot is honestly great, the acting is amazing, and the game is genuinely funny.
I get it, man. I get it. Us Earthers, we all look the same. It's not like you guys who very clearly look different.
So without further ado, let's go. I start a new game and set it to hard. We start in Quill's flashback, no combat, just exposition. Blah blah blah, Quill's mum's hot, moving on. Team enter hostile territory and the game is on. So what you've got to understand is that I've only had one playthrough prior. My concept of the layout isn't exactly airtight, so when I fought up this challenge, I didn't remember that you face the first combat encounter alone and are forced to shoot the first enemy as part of the tutorial. Seriously, you cannot avoid it, though since it's mandatory I guess that makes it no different than a cutscene. And the enemy doesn't die, so I figure it's not the end of the world, though I am now stuck in a fight with no means of fighting back. My first thought is to run away, see if I can avoid the fight, but the game won't let me leave the arena until all the enemies are dead. This is starting to look impossible, but I've got some ideas. I try to find another way out, maybe a glitch I can exploit, but no luck. The enemies attack Quill by launching themselves at him, so I try standing on this railing and jumping when they lunge to see if they'll throw themselves out of the arena, but it seems that's impossible. At this point, I figure the challenge is a bust before I've even finished the tutorial, but then this happens. Apparently, these enemies can just pop. I have no idea how or why, but I realize that by getting them to bounce around in this corner, they'll eventually just pop. It's still no easy feat as there are dozens of them, and when Quill dies, it's right back to the start. I actually complete the fight twice, but am soft-locked because this guy keeps getting stuck in the grating, forcing me to restart and lure the enemies to the corner from a specific direction to avoid them getting stuck. Finally, I outlived them. That took 2 hours. I don't want to jinx it and say the first fight was the toughest, but it damn well could be. We reunite with the team and enter another arena. While Rocket is busy, we have to take out some more of the same enemies. Unlike before, I couldn't find anywhere I could get these guys to pop, none of the corners were working, and Groot wasn't doing anything. Then I jump onto a spot where the enemies can't get me, and that seems to prompt Groot into pulling his weight. But not very well, it seems to be a dice roll whether his hit will work or not. So I leave to go brush my teeth and take a piss, simultaneously of course. When I get back, I see him attacking a specific enemy, but for way too long. This guy was simply not dying. I did everything to try and fix this, but nothing worked and I had to restart the encounter. This seemed to be the right decision as now Groot was absolutely annihilating these guys, even taking out the bigger ones in an instant. And we're through. We enter another arena, and this is probably the first easy fight. While the Guardians do deal damage on their own, it's not a lot. The money lies in their special abilities, which are attacks you command. Each teammate gets 4 special abilities by the end of the game, but it costs points, so it's up to you what attacks you want. Rocket's special ability is a high damage grenade, so it's my first chance to actually defend myself. With Rocket's explosives at my disposal, I command my way forward and end up alone in the boss fight. Fortunately, Gamora and Drax are there, and I've now got the whole team fighting for me. The Guardians get captured by Space Fuzz, and there's some great dialogue and all, but no enemies to avoid killing. We've got a fat fine, and decide to pay it off by selling a member of the team, and then stealing them back later. We can choose between selling Groot or Rocket. All I know is that selling Rocket results in a bunch of fighting, so Groot it is. We're on another planet and fight some jelly monsters. They're tough because the jelly acts as a regenerative shield, so I need to focus all the Guardians on one at a time to kill them. So what's it like fighting using just the Guardians? Well, for one, I need to keep Quill alive, which is actually not too difficult as he has a regenerative shield and enemies drop health when killed. The main difference is that everything takes too long. This being a video game, you're meant to be the key piece, so obviously it doesn't work right without you. The Guardian's special abilities take time to recharge, so I can't just spam commands, so every fight kind of revolves around running around until the Guardians are ready to attack again. We arrive at our destination and Quill has another flashback. Blah blah, exposition, blah blah, Quill's mum, moving on. We sell Groot to some dommy mommy. We sell Groot to some dommy mommy. We sell Groot to some dommy mommy and then sneak We sell Groot to some dommy mommy and then sneak in to steal him back. Damn it, dude. But it all goes wrong. Hentai boss fight, oh no. It's a tough fight, especially when jelly monsters get involved. There is a slight problem though. Tentacruel can actually heal by sticking his arms in these pools. We're meant to stop that by hitting this prompt, but when I hit the prompt, Starlord uses his element guns and freezes the enemy's limb, which is then cut off by Gamora. I try freezing the pools so it can't use them, but it doesn't work. As I run around, I try to think of ways I could possibly kill it, but it's impossible. You can't deal damage faster than it can heal, so I give in and press the prompt. This isn't the worst thing, I guess, as Quill is only freezing the limb to assist the team, and it's done via quicktime event, but definitely not ideal. The team return to pay their fine, but the first have all been brainwashed and are hostile. It's a tricky fight, but I get to shoot the tire locks off the ship so we can escape. It's just refreshing to shoot something in a fight for once. We end up on nowhere and literally the entire team abandoned me. Not cool. Do they expect the leader to actually put some work in? Next they'll be asking for a bigger salary so they can actually afford to live. People are so greedy now, honestly. Quill gets ambushed by some bounty hunter brothers, but fortunately I can just avoid them until Gamora and Drax come in to save the day. Quill then has another flashback where his mum gifts him guns. That would be very American, but they are space guns, and we all know how those guys feel about aliens. There's then a big fight where you're meant to try and protect Quill's mum, but you can't win, so there's really no point in trying to save her. We then meet up with a Russian space dog who teleports us onto a space cruiser so Quill can save his ex. We fight Fuzz and robots on our way through the ship, and while we do, I need to tell you about all-out attacks. All-out attacks can occur after damaging an enemy, and can be initiated by pushing the triangle button. This will prompt the team to go all out and deal serious damage to the targeted enemy. The problem with all-out attacks is that whether Quill is involved in the attack is seemingly random. Sometimes the team will handle it, sometimes Quill will deal the hit. For the most part, I can just avoid the prompt so I don't risk having to start the fight over again, but apparently these can be mandatory, so it's something to keep an eye out for. Some guy with a gold skid mark on his face escorts us to the Big Cheese, and it turns out Quill's maybe baby has been brainwashed into leading a cult. She puts Quill into a dream and he gets the chance to save his mum. Obviously I'm meant to gun down all the aliens, but I shouldn't, so I try to find ways past it. There's no way to escape the farm, so I see what happens if they kill me. Turns out they literally can't. So I see if they'll kill Quill's mum. They won't. I have to give in and gun them down. Then Quill's mum is like, nice gun son, we should like live happily ever after for real. And as tempting as that offer is, I feel it would be wrong to end it now, so I have to shoot Quill's mum. So not only did I just kill a bunch of space aliens, but also Quill's very lovely mum. But remember, this is a dream, so technically, Starlord has killed no one. Technically. Just bear with me, okay? We scare off Skidmark, and this is where we encounter probably the worst enemies in this challenge, the healers. Not only do they heal other enemies, they heal each other, and sometimes themselves too. When the team's attacks all need to recharge, that basically means I have to kill every enemy in one attack, or the damage is just negated. This takes forever, and a lot of experimenting with my tactics, but I finally get a team huddle. A team huddle is where you get the opportunity to motivate the team, which significantly reduces the recharge on their special attacks for a limited time. This turns out to be just what I need to get past the healers. We fight our way through the ship. There's this on-rails section where the enemies shoot our platform and Quill's meant to return fire, but thankfully that's not necessary. After escaping, we're ambushed and there's some spaceship combat. While it is Quill at the wheel, it's ultimately the ship doing the damage, meaning anyone could do it, so I think it's fine. We then run to the Space Fuzz to ask for help.
Of course, she don't mention Contraxia.
They, actually. The world mind is a collective consciousness.
They're all like, yeah, nah, that sounds kinda scary, G, no cap, I'm bounced like a bunion, peace. And that just gets everyone all worked up, so Quill decides to snatch some Zeds. There's another dream sequence where we have to shoot something, but again, it's a dream. Drax has been brainwashed and locks everyone in their rooms, so the team has to sing Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry Be Happy at varying degrees of quality to maneuver their space llama to the door locks. I did mention how great this game was, right? We head into some death cave to cure Drax. It's pretty smooth sailing and Rocket overcomes his PTSD. We do end up fighting some golden guy. Stop shooting, you're making me look bad. We enter Drax's head to tell him cults are bad, and he overcomes his PTSD. We go to nowhere for a rematch, and Gamora overcomes her PTSD. The team's self-discovery is very useful as it unlocks their super abilities, which deal a lot of damage. Better than that, the supers are on a separate recharge to the regular abilities, meaning I can finally make teammates attack twice in quick succession. We're at the finish line, but Skidmark gets the drop on us and takes away Schrodinger's daughter. Disheartened, the team decide to fight a dragon, which sounds crazy, but is actually a very effective team-building exercise. The path to the dragon is relatively smooth sailing, but the boy himself is a different story. Foom is out of reach, which sucks because Rocket is the only Guardian with ranged attacks. On top of that, there's a frequent all-out attack prompt, which seems to trigger even if you're using the button for something else. Since this immediately results in Quill firing plasma at Foom, I became deathly afraid of the triangle button. Every time I used it, I had to make absolutely certain the prompt wasn't up, because if it was, I would have to start the fight from the beginning. Eventually I hit a wall, Foom begins to bring the hellfire, and Rocket gets downed. I need to heal him, but the all-out attack prompt is active, and healing requires the triangle button. I wait for the fire to end, but it doesn't. I realize that this is the final stage, Foom's low on health, and I'm meant to just kill him. I can't restart the fight because making it this far took 40 minutes. Quill fires plasma, which is burning hot. It definitely counts as a damage dealer. Out of options, I go to heal Rocket and pray that I won't activate the attack. Foom dies, but is immediately resurrected by Groot, so I guess he's fine? This unlocks Groot's super ability, which is the ability to heal teammates. Since my main problem was that I couldn't heal my damage dealer, this makes me think that maybe it's possible on New Game Plus, where you'd have the ability during the fight. I don't know, it's the final showdown and the team have cool new outfits. It's a tough fight, but we make it to the boss. Quill then has to tell a 12-year-old that her mum is dead, which, you know, probably some emotional damage.
Yay!
We then battle through an army of healers and onto Skidmark. Turns out he's also a boss that won't die until you activate an all-out attack. I have to give in and set it off. It looks like Quill only fires a stun shot, so that's something. Well, it doesn't matter now because the galaxy has been successfully guarded. Yippee. Actually, no, Golden Boy is corrupted and we have to destroy him with verbal abuse. The final countdown begins to play. We enter a QuickTime event. This is the final showdown. Quill deals the final hit, but it's a cutscene, so it doesn't count. So that's it. I completed the game without using Starlord. Kind of. The overwhelming majority of fights could be won without the Guardian's heroic leader needing to step in, though they did take a lot longer. Seriously, my first playthrough where I played normally, that took 16 hours. This challenge took 21. Fortunately, keeping Quill alive was quite easy except for the odd fight here and there, so that extra time mostly came down to waiting for the Guardian's abilities to recharge. The game actually got easier as it went on because the team only got stronger, to the point even healers weren't a hustle. Anyway, I'm stalling. We did in fact hurt things. We shot an enemy for the tutorial, though I honestly don't think that counts. We froze an enemy's limbs and shot its weak point, though those were more of assists than attacks. We dealt final blows to 2 bosses, though they were more like end fight buttons than genuine attacks. And worst of all, we just single-handedly murdered aliens and Quill's mum in a dream. These have the benefit that they're just a dream and Quill is not actually killing anyone, but nevertheless you cannot progress through the game without Quill single-handedly killing these enemies. So all the flaws in this challenge can be kind of disregarded through technicality. Now I'm well aware of the famous quote, to win through technicality is to be a little bitch, but man, I've got to take what I can get. And hell, some of these can probably be bypassed on lower difficulties or on New Game Plus. So I think overall, it is technically possible. Well, actually, there's one fight I haven't told you about.
Well, Scott!
This place is crawling with ugly!
This fight occurs at the beginning of the game in the quarantine zone. Quill is separated from Rocket and Groot. He is on his own. I immediately try to run, but I can't leave the arena. I try jumping around to see if there are any unintentional gaps. Nothing. I try to see if this enemy will just implode like the others. Nothing. I try damaging the enemy to see if that changes anything. Nothing. I restart the fight over and over again. I try dying. I try to leave. Avoid the fight entirely. I think maybe if I stand on the border of the arena, the enemy will hit me over, but it just stops attacking me. I try again because something has to work. I can't give in. Not yet. Wait. Oh my god, that just worked. I move on to the next area, but the fight doesn't trigger. It's clear the game still wants me to kill the enemy, but I can't give in. I try so hard to move on. I try and I try, but it is impossible. I cannot go any further. Having exhausted my options, I give in and I kill the enemies. 5 dead aliens. No technicalities, no different difficulties, no new game plus. It is impossible to beat Guardians of the Galaxy without Starlord. Damn it. But hey, thank you so much for watching and going on this journey with me. Unless you just skip to the end to get the answer, in which case I've got a special message for you. Even with how things turned out, I'm just so happy I made it past the first combat encounter. Seriously, I was so certain the challenge was going to be a bust right from the get-go, and that I somehow prevailed was probably one of my more exciting moments. I'm glad I tried to complete the game in spite of the fact I failed so early, because now I know that while Starlord is necessary, he's like barely necessary. Like, his damage is the 1%. His damage is equivalent to the final bullet fired into the toe of a barely breathing comatose bloody pulp. Anyway, this game is amazing. Seriously, I really just wanted an excuse to play it again. Please, treat yourself. Play this game. It's absolutely nothing like that boring Avengers game that had about as much soul as a ginger. This game masters the team dynamic. It's one of the few games I found to be genuinely funny. I'd love to make a proper video on it at some point. I'm getting distracted. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, any of it. It all makes my day. If you're interested, I've got a couple more challenge videos and I plan to make a lot more. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.